This lesson is about string operations, which is sort of like our math operations from before, but is also totally different from strings. For strings. Okay, so what we have here is a short program that I've started with a comment that says strings, and then some of the things that you probably learned in the basic input-output lesson that demonstrates how strings are used. So what I'm going to do is save this, and I'm going to name this string practice .py, which is very important, and then I will run it to show you what it does so far. It'll print a line, and then ask me for some response, type something, and then it returns what I typed back to it by first storing that string in a variable and printing that variable out again. So what do I mean by string operations? For that is what we see up here, the plus sign. You can add strings together. If I say first name probably is John, and then last, set that equal to Smith, and I print, and I add those together. I like putting up space between those just to make it more readable. And I'm going to get rid of this earlier stuff. It will add those words together, or add those strings together. But you'll notice that it didn't put a space between them by default. You have to add that space on your own. And a space in strings looks like that. You just put some quotes and then one single space in between them, and that will give you a space when you print out the strings. There we go. So from here, the string operations become much different than what you've seen in math. You can't subtract or divide the strings, but what you can do is called slicing them. And we do that using brackets. Say I have some word, my variable will be called word, equal to smiles. Because it's the longest word, because there's a mile between the S's. It's an old joke from when I was a kid. And if we want, for example, just the first 3 letters in smiles, or maybe a better example would be just the first letter. We want to print that out. We will say, we'll print word 0. And there we have S, the first S in smiles. I'm also going to remove the previous string operation things, just to keep my file clean as I do this. So if I run that, now it'll just give us an S. Now, you can do more than just grabbing an individual letter from a string. You can also slice and grab chunks of it. So if I wanted everything from the second letter on, if I wanted miles, you type 1, then a colon, and then close that pointy bracket, and remember to close your print line. Then I will hit run to show you what that does. This tells Python to grab all of the characters from position 1 to the end of the string. So we know that 0 is S. It'll grab from 1, which is M, and go to the end. Now, what if we wanted smile instead of mile or S? Python has a really cool thing called negative indexing, where we can go from the other side. So we type -1, -1, like that, it should give us smiles, or just smile, without the S at the end. Yes, it does. Because counting from the left, you will have 0, 1, 2, it's hard to click, 3, 4, and 5. But if you type in negative numbers, it'll go from the right, and it'll go -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. And always remember that the first letter is actually at position 0. A few other examples of string slicing, just to illustrate this, is if I grab from 1 through 4, that should give us mile or smil or mil, depending on how long this actually is. There's a lot of guess and check in programming. So from position 1 to 4 gives us mil. And now we can, of course, add stuff like this together if we want. Add these strings. If I add lion to mil, you can maybe guess and figure out what it's going to type, but I will have a string called million. Okay, so this was your lesson on string operations. Next up, I'll have an activity or challenge, if you want to think about it, to practice these string operations.